Welcome everyone live, Audiophile Roundtable. My name is Steve Westman. Fun one, ideas and tips on how to conduct an LP shootout, plus news, picks, and rants. Everyone wants a good rant. Welcome to the show. Big news on Friday. I'm sure you guys saw or heard that Rhino Hi-Fi is going to be announcing their two next hard rock titles or rock titles. You get to see the reveal live on my channel. I won't be live. I actually recorded with Patrick Milligan last Saturday, but you can watch it 5:30 a.m. and then around that time, they should be ready to pre-order, I guess, to order on the Rhino Hi-Fi website. So that'll be a fun one. Check that one out as well. But yeah, welcome to the show. I want to bring in everyone today. I'm going to start off. I'm going to bring in this young man here. You know him as Josh Norred, highfidelityrecords.com. We've seen your videos, Josh. You did a video today on One Step, and I know we had a few shows on the One Step itself as well, and we'll get into that a little bit later. People can check out, where do you check out that One Step video that you did today? Where do we find that?
Yeah, well, you can find links to everything at my website there. Okay. Just like it's spelled out, highfidelityrecords.com. You can find, obviously, the records. You can buy records there. You can also go find my YouTube channel link there, and everything related to everything that I'm up to. But yeah,
like right there, that's
the one. That's the
High
one.
Fidelity. Well, thanks. Yeah, I will tell the folks I've bought a lot of records off you, and I love your packaging, and you're very quick and great service. So I mean, that's why I love to plug you and wish you all the best, and love to see you sell lots of records. I mean, that's the thing. And I loved your record. I loved your YouTube One Step video today. So definitely we'll talk about that. I know we've had some debate about the One Steps in the last month or so on the Roundtable. So yeah, absolutely. But you have the top five. I know I've been doing the top five lately, and so
yeah,
the floor is yours. I'll put the record up. You tell me what I'm looking at. In no specific order, but what are we looking at in the High Fidelity top five of the week here?
Yeah, this is I believe this is a late 70s pressing of Small Faces, Ogden Nut Gone Flake. If you're not familiar, it's like it's one of my favorite records by them. It's kind of like moving more into the psychedelic realm. I mean, the title track, Song for a Baker, Lazy Sunday. So if you love like Humble Pie, Steve Marriott, obviously, this is his band that predates Humble Pie, and this is, I think, their best record from front to back. So
nice. And on your website, you can pick that up.
Yep, it's on there.
Shout, let it all out. There they are. The 1980s, they didn't know about unibrows back then, but that's Tears for Fears.
Yeah, man, unibrows were the look, and you had to have like the one earring, like Roland there. But yeah, this is actually a Canadian pressing. What makes this one's unique from the UK or the US pressing? This actually has like a 26-page book.
Oh wow!
Book inside, which has like promo photos and them in the studio. So if you're you love this album and you haven't seen this version, I've never seen it. It's got some cool like fan club stuff in there as well. So cool version to add.
Next, we have a Sheffield Labs Tower of Power Direct.
Yeah, these are direct to disc. This is a test pressing for Tower of Power. Obviously, it's got some of their hits on, like What Is Hip on there. If you're not familiar with Tower of Power, go listen to them right now. But if you're familiar with the Sheffield Labs, the direct to discs, they're killer sounding. So if you want Tower of Power, Sheffield Lab, get it.
Love this one. I have the Isaac Hayes Hot Buttered Soul. This is the One Step Craft One Step by Bernie Grundman, if I'm not mistaken.
It is, yeah, fantastic. It was part of my my YouTube video talking about One Steps today. Yeah, I love it. Quiet background. It's on that Neotech.
And I know Bernie Grundman loves One Step. I mean, that's some of his favorite pressings from my interview with him. So,
bread and butter.
And last but not least, Family Stone Stand.
Yeah, so I got to say, this is one thing about soul records. They're hard to find clean because typically they've been played to death, and they didn't make as many soul records as they did rock and roll records. This thing has never been played other than the time I have actually already cleaned this in the KL Audio and played it. It's flawless. Ooh. It is awesome. So if you're looking for the absolute cleanest yellow epic 1969 first pressing to stand, that's your copy. So
there you go. Thank you, Josh. Highfidelityrecords.com. Now, Patrick Piebethol's next, and I will say Michael T's sick today, so he's on the injured reserve. So I brought in a backup, and that's Josh today. So thanks for doing this last minute. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Much
Thanks for having me.
appreciated. Patrick Piebethol, let's bring him in. Hang on a second, Patrick. There you are. Welcome. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Nice to see you. And I know this is a fun one because it's how to do an LP shootout, and who better to get on than Patrick Piebethol to talk about how to properly do an LP shootout. I'm hoping to learn a lot today. I know when you and I were texting back and forth, you said this could be a spicy episode, so I'm excited to see where this all leads in the next hour or so.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like you said, there's no right or wrong way. Just whichever way you want to do it is the way you do it. You just preface by saying that.
There you go. And then I'm going to bring on a friend of the show, one of our viewers. You'll see he goes by Revelry69 on YouTube, and you see him in the comments. He comments a lot, and him and I become good friends and go back and forth. And he was on the show with Patrick and myself. Was it a year or two ago now? So I'm going to bring him in. This is Brent C. Hang on, Brent. Let's get you off mute here.
Hello.
From Seattle, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Not that far from me and not far from Patrick, but
You
far
are
from
correct.
Josh. Yeah. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for
I'm
having
really
me
good.
on. Hi, everybody.
Thanks for coming on. I'm excited today as well because it gets it's one thing that we like to do is test all of our records and sort of shoot them out against other records as well. So I want to talk about that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun today to do that. I mean, I used to do a lot of shootout videos, and if I had more time, I would. I mean, it takes a lot of time, and that's what Patrick's saying. Yeah, it absolutely takes a lot of time. And just reading here, Christopher wants a rant, Patrick, so maybe later on. Rants. I need rants. Hello, everybody. I need rants. So you brought
Right
the guy
behind
in.
me.
You got, what do you mean right behind you? What's right behind you that's a rant? What is it? What are we looking at? The Sunday's blind, okay?
The
Clearly,
Interscope reissue.
clearly
I'm going to let it build. I'm going to let it build before I'm going to let it go.
Oh, speaking of that, hang on, I got something. Oh, one other thing. I got a couple things going on here. I wanted to mention next week's show, next Wednesday, 7 days from now, which would be what? What's it today? Will that be the 19th then? What's the
19th.
Thank you.
19th.
I'm having Grover Beery from
19th.
Because Sound Matters. I'm having Chris Bellman on, and I'm having the producer of Katie Lang's Ingenue, the album from 1992, Ben Mink, to talk about the production of that record. So that's going to be a fun show. That's next Wednesday, 7 p.m. So I just spoke with Grover today, so that's been confirmed. So it's going to be nice to have the producer on that was part of, wrote some of the songs, was in the studio, played the instruments to get his take on that record as well, especially what his take is on the new reissue that Because Sound Matters in. And that's a one step. And I was showing Patrick before, I have the test pressing from back in November. So it takes a while, right? November is when this was test pressed by RTI. It's going to be limited to 3,000, and it's an all analog cut by Chris Bellman, and Chris Bellman will be on as well. And Chris Bellman cut this one. Of course, this is the digital back. This is the 25th anniversary. Back in 2016, I think this was. And of course, Chris did the CD a while back as well. So I know, talking to Chris as well, he really likes the sound of this record. And I know Michael Fremer from Tracking Angle gave it an 11 for sound, if that means anything. So I have to agree with Michael. It's a one step. Again, Josh, a one step, 33 RPM one step, cut from the analog tapes by Chris Bellman. Yeah, I agree with Michael Fremer, 100% 11. Unbelievable sounding record. Again, that probably goes back to the way it was recorded as well. And that will go back to when I'm talking to the producer, Ben Mink, next week about the recording process.
Nice.
It's going to be nice.
You can ask him if he has
You
can ask Ben Mink if he has a copy of that CBC FM Black Noise.
Well, I'm sure you can watch. I mean, Ben Mink, Rick's is a former member of the band FM, Ben Mink. So he'll be on the show next Wednesday, confirmed as of today. So I'm excited about that.
I'd rather hear him talk about FM.
Right?
I would love to hear that. I like FM. FM's a good band.
Ask him a couple questions, and maybe he'll answer. He's going to be live.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, too, I got this. And you know how I'm a huge CCR fan, and Kraft was kind enough to send me some promos, and they sent me, these are the digital copies that were made by Kraft at like $28. Again, let's just say put an asterisk. These aren't audiophile. This is a digital pressed at Memphis, the Memphis pressing plant. They gave me the obviously Cosmos factory here, and they're colored vinyl, right? So you see this one here. This is Willie and the Poor Boys, of course, and then the last one I got here. This is an orange vinyl Bayou Country. They sound good. I mean, for the price, $28, not bad. I know. Analog Productions came out with the greatest hits, those 45 RPMs with limited copy.
They're redoing those. They redid those.
Yeah. And Kevin Gray did. So yeah.
They had a small batch. Did anybody order that?
I have the albums. I have the absolute original albums, so I didn't buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like $300 or something.
Not a bad deal. For 25 songs, I think that's what it was, right? If I'm not mistaken.
One of my best friends is the COO at Memphis Records, Memphis Pressing Plant, by the way.
So I will tell you can let your friend know. I mean, I just want to show the folks here. This is a Memphis press. I mean, it's colored vinyl. It sounds good. I mean, I was here's what it looks like.
I toured their facility. They've got like 48 brand new GZ pressing plants. So
sounds great.
Presses
I mean, again, it's a digital. It's $28.
Who mastered those, Steve?
Jeff Powell is the fellow's name.
Jeff Powell.
Yeah, he's done a lot.
Yeah, he's Google
Jeff
guy.
Powell. He's done a lot of work and done some really good work. So again,
did you do stuff at Ardent? Did you do some stuff at Ardent? Wasn't that where he's from?
I don't know, but I will say for $28, not a bad deal. Let's just say that. I played them a bunch of times. I didn't compare them to my Hoffman Gray cuts, of course, but I mean, because I'm not comparing that. It's apples to oranges, right? On audiophile cut, not digital versus a
digital. He's from Ardent Studios, so which is where Big Star and all those.
He's done a lot of good work. He's done some great work as well. That's for sure. So
the definitive version of those albums is the Kevin Gray Hoffman cuts, right?
Yeah, and I have those ones as well. And like I said, I didn't compare my Kraft to those ones. I don't think that's a fair comparison. What I was just looking for. I mean, again, they want to reach out to as many people as possible. $28, not bad.
Yeah.
The Hollywood pressings of the originals, if you find those are second, just below the Hoffman Gray ones, because those are not attainable anymore. So just go after the Hollywood.
Jefferson was mentioning, they're using the fantasy label. Kind of cool, huh?
Cool.
It's cool.
Does that have the indent in it? Is that the indent in it on the label? Like where the circle is? Is it indented? Is it recessed?
No.
Okay.
Great live band. If you haven't seen that that doc, the Royal Albert Hall, whatever doc, or I think that's what it is. I mean, fuck. I mean, no. Can I say fuck on here?
You did already.
They were on fire, man.
I'm gonna blame it on Patrick. That's fine.
Dude, they were on fire. I mean, they were on it, man. They were playing great. I mean, people just don't realize back in those days. I mean, you had to be good live. There was none of this backing track bullshit or all that stuff that these bands do today. I mean, you had to be.
That's real music.
Yeah, you had to be able to play, man. And those guys,
no overdubs, any of that stuff, right?
No, those dudes were.
That's one thing about CCR. I mean, every single album, the consistency. I mean, getting back to the consistency of their play. I mean, you sort of know what to expect. So I would imagine, John Fogerty live would be the same consistency. You know what you're going to get out of that band or out of him playing. I mean, it's just incredible. Every album's incredible. I love every single one of their albums. I really do.
They're all
good. Yep.
Except for the one where he let the other guys.
Well, yeah, Mardi Gras.
Well, what's the story there with John Fogerty where he got sued when he was doing the Center Field record where some of the chords were the same as his CCR ones and he didn't own the publishing rights to some of those songs, so his old publishing company sued him for one of those songs that he wrote because it had the same sort of chord progression in it. And there's a story.
He also got sued for Zans Can't Dance. He had to change it. So
yeah, that's right. And that was Zans was the record producer,
the owner of Fantasy Records.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Cranberry says "Run to the Jungle." Right there you go. Oh, was it "Run to the Jungle"? Is that the one he got sued for or got sued for? Is
Run Through the Jungle.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any CCR in my collection.
Oh, really? I'm surprised.
Unfortunately.
You're a big Who. You're a big The Who guy, though, aren't you? Like you like The Who.
Yeah, I need to. I was looking into getting this that box set. Just to, yeah, that one right there.
Oh, hang on. I gotta put that up again. I want to show the folks. What are you holding up?
Well, this is the original. This is a box set with all the albums. So this
Love
has
it. So who's
Oh,
the,
that
who's
has
the
all the
engineer in that?
originals.
Who cut that? What's that one all about?
Steve Hoffman,
his-
Kevin Gray.
That's right.
Hoffman, Kevin Gray.
That's the one with
Yeah.
the 33s, right?
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
are the 33s.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is what they need to reproduce. This is what they need to redo.
How much would that be going for in the Discogs world?
I have no idea.
I mean, they all, it's singles, they're all at least $100 records. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So okay, so the one that Analog
Yeah.
Productions is putting out, the 25 songs, that's a 45 RPM cut, correct?
That's like a comp. It's like
Yeah.
a comp. They took the best
It's-
songs off each album and made 45s. These are
yeah.
the full albums here.
So they must have had the plates for that as well. I would assume, is that what they're using?
Eight discs. Now, I think Chad said they had extra boxes of that comp laying around, so he got approval from Fantasy or whoever to
They did.
press
When
them.
I seen them when I worked there. They also had a bunch of the boxes of the SACDs there that were just like sitting in cold storage. I think they released those here recently too.
Scott Wheeler, maybe you can answer this. Someone who, when you cut a record, you can't stop and start the cutting. So how do they skip songs on the master tape when cutting it?
Would they make a copy to
They
make
made
it the
a
greatest
copy.
to make the dub a 1-to-1 copy?
It'd be a 1-to-1
and sequence
copy.
it the way they want to copy it. That's how they do comps, right?
I would think so.
I mean, word on the street is it sound really good, that comp. And it also has a couple of those expanded stereo or whatever.
Well, I mean, everybody fawns over the Audio 5 Sergeant Pepper that was a copy tape, So everyone says that's the greatest of all time. I've had one in my hand, so I mean,
I have
and that was a copy tape.
I have your digital.
I have a digital rip of it.
Me too. I think it's PB Dolls.
I don't know if it originated from you, but I got the Audio
Odds
A5.
Odds are good it originated from me. I don't know of anybody else that's ever done it. But I could be
Probably
wrong.
did. Yeah. Well, I
think I did with the Art 9. So.
Yeah, I had the. I think I downloaded somewhere where they had the A5, and then the MoFi, and then what was the other one? The Nimbus.
I've had one. The only one I haven't done is the Nimbus. That's kind of like the last thing that's literally the last piece to the puzzle. The last really thing that I'm looking for. I mean, there's other records that I want, but I want to do that one. That's the one that has eluded me. I pretty much checked all the boxes of other stuff. That's the only one that's eluded me.
Put the CCR up. Jim Jones Excursion. Yes, no doubt. Kevin Gray, Steve Hoffman's are the best. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pretty dang good.
Like I said,
you can get the Hoffman Gray one pretty affordably. I think
they're still on Amazon. I picked a couple up on Amazon as well for about $53 Canadian. So again, I'm not comparing the new craft ones that came out for $28 at digital. But I mean, again, if you want to save a little bit of money.
Well, if it's done right and the mastering is good,
it absolutely is done right.
Yes, vinyl and kicks. It's noisy. Both of them are noisy. So that's my rant for the day. So
hold on,
that's going to be my rant.
Where are you going up? I want to put that up. Where did you see which one is?
Oh, it's this one.
Right, Nimbus is this one here. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I saw this too. Blandia. How does your OG UK mono stack up in your list, Patrick?
Well, that's different. I mean, because it's mono. So the only thing to compare the mono to for me is either the Japanese 1982 Red Wax mono, which I have, or the Beatles box set in Beatles in mono, which is, so those are really the three biggies for me. I mean, the German, I've never really listened to a German or a Dutch or, I think I've had the Australian, but not the mono, but they use the same plates anyway. So, but yeah, I mean, I like Pepper in mono, and it's hard for me to beat that tube UK mono sound. The Japanese Red Wax mono is very bass. If you like bass, it's very, very heavy in the bass. Really, really bassy. If you like that. So.
Are they still selling them on Amazon for $20? Because that's the
not all of them. It was like maybe one or two titles, and they're not pressed at QRP either. They're
not.
It's not
right.
It's not an Apple.
I was talking about used market. They're not like grossly crazy, but
yeah.
I think we're going to see a resurgence of CCR. I think there's going to be a lot of CCR records sold in coming weeks now. I mean, really, good stuff. But yeah,
They're not a rhino artist. They're not a rhino artist, though, right?
No,
Fantasy wasn't. No.
I was happy with the craft ones, and like I said, pressed at Memphis, and yeah, not bad for digital pressing.
dig it. The SACDs
Awesome.
are awesome too. I think they still have those at Acoustic Sounds website because they had some
really?
of those. Yeah, too. So if you're like an SACD guy, jump on them while they have them because the resale on them was crazy until they released some here recently. So yeah, great.
Look, Scott Wheeler saying mastered by Kevin Gray and Steve Hoffman from the original analog tapes. That's the ad on Acoustic Sounds. He says it's not possible. Well, if it's a 1-to-1, then it's mastered from the analog tapes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And
They just made a comp.
Marketing minutia.
Scott Wheeler, is it possible they have the hardware from the 2002 to 2014?
Yes.
There you go. Josh says yes. There's your answer. Josh would know.
Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Even
Chad
if
said.
even if they had the hardware, they'd have to cut that the same way. Even if they had the metal plates, they still have to cut it the same way.
How many copies? How many copies of Acoustic Sounds or Analog Productions going to be pressing of the CCR 25?
He said he didn't have many. Okay. I don't know what that meant, but it was kind of weird.
Would they have to renegotiate the right to sell it though? Because the license for that must have run out by now. So
it did. He had to get special approval.
Yeah.
I think they just had some already pressed in the warehouse. I don't think it was recut. I don't think.
Somebody pressed extras and like it stashed them for later on. Can you imagine that if you're like a guy that works at QRP, you just press a few for yourself and keep shoving them over there.
That would never happen. Yeah. KRW is thinking.
I would think less than 5. It's got to be because he said there's not many. So
if you go to the website, is it sold out? Then I assume it's sold out.
I haven't checked it, but I checked it last week. And the weird part is it's not like listed anywhere as like their normal listings. You had to kind of dig through the website. You had to kind of dig through to find it. At least that's what I did. I had to dig through. I did actually order one, but I haven't paid for it yet. Because
all the stuff I want sells out. The stuff I don't want never seems to be sold out. It's easy to find. Right. Story of my life for that stuff.
Here, I found it.
I guess yeah.
There it is. Can you see?
Yeah, there it is. It's not sold out yet. No.
$295
for $295. I mean, I'd grab that.
Well, I think they were like $800 on Discogs or something.
Yeah, that's total. I mean, I know it doesn't have all the best songs, but it's got most of them, and I mean, it's
got a lot of great ones.
Yeah, I say grab it.
And it also has.
They didn't recut it. These are definitely from the parts from before because they didn't recut it.
Let's read it here. Right. What does it say? So it says. Mastered by Kevin Gray and Steve Hoffman from the
they don't work. They don't work together anymore. So this is
clearly don't. I guarantee you they don't work together any longer.
Yeah, and Chad said they had the old. He said they had the metalwork. I heard him talking about it somewhere.
Okay,
but and he said the only reason he's doing it is because he had boxes left over.
And that's what Josh was saying as well. There you go.
Yeah.
So $295. It looks like it's still available on their website. So that's
and it's 8 discs.
Deal. Wow.
Damn, I'm getting FOMO now. I'm gonna have to go order it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see.
Are we giving people FOMO now? Oh no.
Well, if there's only a few hundred of those left, which I guess there may be, I mean, they're probably going to go. But I'm curious to hear this expanded stereo mix. I don't know if that was in the box. Was that in the box, the album box?
I think that was exclusive to the 45 box.
Okay. Yeah, the wide stereo mix or something.
Mm-hmm. Of Lodi and Bad Moon Rising, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exclusive to this. So yeah.
Cool.
There you go. So still available.
Well, there you go.
Okay, so let's get to the meat and potatoes. I mean, when you're doing a shootout, I want some tips, Patrick, Brent, Josh, for the folks, and then everyone in the comments. I mean, I'm sure they have their own way to, I guess, compare and shoot out records. Now I'm gonna ask the folks this first of all, and in the comments, does everyone level match? And really, you can't. Shootout. It's hard to shoot at a 45 RPM versus a 33 RPM because we know that a 45 RPM is going to sound louder if you don't level match it by about at least 2 dBs. We know that. I love the fact when I had Steve Hoffman on, and someone were in the comments we were talking about Fleetwood Mac rumors, right? He did the 33 and the 45 RPM reissue, and he said just buy the 33 and just turn it up a bit. That's all you need. That was Steve Hoffman saying that, so I thought that was very interesting.
You got to level match.
You can totally level match different masterings. I've had mastering engineers tell me that you can level match different masterings. George Borden on this stream has said you can level match different masterings, and he's a mastering engineer and a recording engineer.
Yeah, you can, but then that kind of defeat the I mean, I get it with the 33 and the 45s, but if you're comparing 33 pressings, I mean, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of shooting them out? I mean, to me, it does. No?
So let's start there. Okay. We've got, let's say, different pressings of, I don't know, you name the pressing, Fleetwood Mac rumors, Patrick.
Yeah.
How would you start that process? If I said, Patrick, I got 5 different copies of Fleetwood Mac rumors. Here you go. Tell the folks what Patrick Peavethal does.
What I would do is I would take each album, I would rip it on the same system, using the same equipment, the same everything, and for all 5, then I would pick a song, pick any song I want. The song, if I was going to put it up on a stream, say one song, pick a song. I would cut that song. I would, if necessary, I would clean it up if I wanted to. Then I would run a volume analysis and I would level match all 5, just on average, not peak level, average. I think average would be the way to go. I've been doing this for, I don't know the actual nomenclature. I use an old edition of Adobe Audition, an old version of it, Adobe 3 to be exact, because it supports DirectX and some plugins that I use a lot. Once I level match them, then depending, I would let other people grab them and listen to them, and we could talk about it. If I was going to do it for a live stream, I would splice sections of the song and match it up and go from pressing A to pressing B to pressing C to pressing D, and just move it along and like let people say this is sample A, this is sample B. You can transition. I did a Bob Marley shootout. If you want to see how I did that, that's how I did it. You would transition, and it's interesting, So it's interesting, the differences when you do it that way. If not, you can let people listen to them on their own in their own system, and do it that way. Through YouTube, you can hear the tonality differences, but it's not as good as, getting the files in your own system and listening to it that way.
Right.
So, and people ask me, say, well, it's not all analog, well, I've heard it all analog, and it's about 95% of the way there. So. Yeah.
Okay. And then from there, Patrick, and I'll get into Brent and Josh as well, in terms of listening, you'll pick one song. Okay.
Well, I mean, for me, because I don't want to spend all day doing this, and I can usually tell pretty early, actually really early on, I can sit there and go, okay, like for the Black Sabbath, when the Rhino versus the Vertigo, I knew instantly which was which and which one I preferred. Yeah. It wasn't even close, so.
Okay, so getting back to something like I said, rumors. Let's say we decide, we're going to do. Never going back again, right? Some good guitar on that with Lindsey Buckingham. So, what are you listening for in terms of low mid range, upper mid range, and sort of the presence? I mean, what are you training your ear for there?
Well, it depends. I mean, so I'm usually listening for depth on drum hits, where the instruments are placed. In the sound stage for me, like, are they clearly defined? Here's the guitar, here's the bass. Do they overlap? Is it brittle? Is it too bloated? It just depends. I know what I like. And so I know when I hear, I know what I don't like. I know when I hear it. Everyone else is going to have a different feeling about what they like about something. And so, you should know right away whether something's appealing to you or not. But one thing you have to be aware of is if something's bright, it'll sound really appealing for the first 5 minutes, but maybe 20 minutes later, it's not so appealing. And also, if you listen at night as opposed to in the morning, when you get up in the morning, by the time, like right now, your ears are tired. You've been listening to stuff all day, and your hearing is different in the morning as it is in the evening. So, and also, like people go, well, I listen to this, and then so I have, if I record something and it's like when I first have a cartridge, and 6 months later, if I record it again after I've used that cartridge, it sounds different. So if you're going to compare, you need to record them like within the same week, to be realistic. That's another thing to consider. You have to use the same equipment. Some people have two turntables and they compare it that way. To me, that's not valid. Even if it's the same turntable and the same cartridge, everything is still different. So if you're going to be anal about it.
There's lots more we'll talk about. Then we'll go to Brent. Brent C., your thoughts on when you listen to the same record and how you compare them. What do you do? Do you pick one, two songs? What are you doing?
Yeah, I pick one or two songs that I know
that you know
well. Yeah, because if it's a song that you're not as familiar with, you don't know what it's supposed to sound like, or you don't know about some of the nuances. And I rarely don't do a shootout with headphones. I know guys use headphones frequently, but the thing is stereo requires both of your ears to hear both of the speakers. There's the timing piece of it, right? So, but if you're using headphones, you're going to hear a lot of details. I love headphones for detail listening, but it's really hard to get an idea of soundstage in headphones unless you have like some really high-end headphones that may be able to do it. But so I always listen to a 2-channel stereo setup, and I actually use slightly different process than I actually have a sugar cube as well, but I actually record my vinyl to DSD. So that's the first step. I go to 256 DSD. I use the same cart, the same table, and then I play back through my DAC at DSD 256. And part of the reason why I use DSD is because I have noticed that the sugar cube, it's it can, I think it sort of takes the edge off. I don't know if you've noticed this, Patrick. Uh, I have noticed, I think maybe it's a PCM thing or something, but it's not a true, even though the noise is taken out, I feel like it loses something in the, like, especially in the low end. It just doesn't feel as real. So I use DSD exclusively for this kind of thing. I listen through the tracks. I look for soundstage. I look for depth, depth of soundstage. Also, the bass. The bass is really important to me. If I can hear a nice tight bass, with nothing bloated or smushed out on the low end, then I know that's a very good recording too. And the highs as well. And then carts are huge. Like I was running a Hanna ML for a while, and I really loved it. But I moved over to a Zoo Audio DL103, which is a much cheaper cart, but it sounds fantastic for what it is.
Brent, what software are you using for your DSD recording? Sorry to interrupt. I just saw this one.
I use Vinyl Studio. Vinyl Studio, and I'm using an RME ADI2 Blackface Edition DAC, or ADC, I should say.
So you're doing double digital. You're going from vinyl to DSD, from DSD to the RME to PCM. Is that what you're doing?
No. I go right out of the turntable into a phono stage, and I use
what's a phono stage?
It's a Black Ice Audio F159.
Okay, I have that downstairs.
Tube-based. Yeah.
What tubes are in it? What tubes are in it?
6922s.
Do you know what kind? So I have the exact same model downstairs, so that's why I'm asking. I'm not being a dick.
I am running. No. I think right now I have the Sovtex in there.
Okay.
But I'm probably going to try to get some NOS ones at some point here soon. It's a fairly new setup for me for the F159. But I really like
the the F159 does add like a 3 dB boost at 20 hertz, right? So
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
look at the back of the manual. So I love it,
Okay.
and the crosstalk thing is great. I mean, I like I said, I have my main system hooked up to it. So
right. Yeah, I mean, before that, I was using a Riga Aria MK3, and so I have a lot of recordings that are already recorded with that set up as well. But I'm using an F159, so I go out of the preamp, the phono preamp, right into the Army. So there's no, it's right to DSD. There's no PCM step anywhere.
does the RME does DSD?
Yes, it does. Up to 256 DSD.
So,
Gotcha.
so Brent, at that point, sort of the presence, right? We're talking, the projection of the vocals and the instruments. I mean, how forward they are. Is that something that
the
really
air
comes to you right away? Then, okay.
Yeah, I'm looking for the air. I'm looking for the space. Like I just shot out the Fragile. I have a
Great album.
ATGP cut, and I have a Kevin Gray cut, the one that was like 2014 or whatever. I don't have an A75 at this point, but I just did those two, and I mean, you can really hear the difference between the two. I mean, they're both great cuts, but I really the Kevin Gray cut is really amazing. But I want to hear soundstage. I want to hear depth, and I want to hear separation of instruments.
Yeah,
That's what I use for my shootouts. Is what one gives me clarity, and I want to hear things in recordings that I haven't heard before. I mean,
well,
some
that
of these
goes into,
songs I've been listening Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it goes into the brilliance too, right? I mean, it's like like you were mentioning the air, there's sparkle, the shimmer of the music and the harmonics and the overtones as well. So that's another thing that I really pick up on, depending on the record that I'm comparing as well. And I will say it's hard a lot of the times to do blind shootouts. I'm not sure how many people do blind shootouts and get into that, bias situation, but if you can do a blind shootout, it's always fun. And I've had it where I've actually had my daughters do the shootouts for me. I did that a few times, and it's interesting to, hear it from their perspective. Teenagers, right, don't know the music as much as we do, and they come up with, they pick different records than I would have.
They had better hearing
that's why
too.
the DSD, that's why using files is great, is because you're not changing a record, so people aren't seeing what you're putting on. Now the only issue I've found is if you have a noisy disc, that can tip someone off that it's an older pressing. If it's not like a crystal clear UHQR versus whatever. But that's where tick and pop removal can come in.
I've seen
but
UHQRs that
unfortunately,
are noisy, a la kind of blues.
that's true. That's true. So you could tip off, like it would maybe going from a Rhino Hi-Fi to a, of like Black Sabbath one. I mean, finding a really clean first edition without much surface noise is probably kind of hard to find. I don't know. But at any rate, yeah, I just think that going from file to file is the best way to do it. And I've done huge amounts of I mean, I actually have the output of my phono stage going right into my preamp, and then the output from my RME going into the preamp. And I can't tell any difference between the the DSD and the direct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, no PCM, DSD or direct analog. I can't hear a difference. And I have friends over here who are like, "Is that
Are we getting
digital
back into the old DSD versus analog debate? Are you bringing that up again?
Well,
that old news?
I don't mean to go that way. It's just where I've gone over time, because I feel like the air is there. The sound stage is not flattened. The PCM, I just feel like it just doesn't
Oh, come
play as
on!
well. It
You
doesn't sound as
convinced
good.
yourself that you've convinced
It's
yourself.
true.
Okay, so then mid range, right? That's mid range, guys. That's where most of the content resides. Most of the fundamental instruments that we hear, it's where mid range is our human speech. So when you're listening to mid range, what are you listening for there?
Well, I listen
Mid-range.
for. I
Well,
listen.
I mean,
I'll ask Josh this one. Josh.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't want to be talking too much.
You're all good. No. Yeah, I mean, typically if we're talking about mid-range, I'm just like listening, especially if you're listening to like an old MoFi cut. A lot of those typically have the mid-range like chopped right out of them, right? They're all highs and lows. And there's a lot of audiophile records that are like that. My theory maybe on that, I know it's probably going into a whole other bag of weeds.
I love rabbit holes.
Yeah, people were listening to them on maybe what people would call, mid-fi systems, and that's really what grabbed people at the time. You know what I mean? Like Patrick was saying, when you first put that on, that first 5 minutes, when those highs are tipped, you're like, oh wow, yeah, this is really detailed, man. So yeah.
And then it becomes
it's easy to be distracted by the high end, as in clarity, right?
Well, I was reading
But
some comments
you're
as well.
right.
A lot of people are like, okay, the bass. I mean, okay, the bass. We got the bass guitars, the kick drums, that type of thing. Some people they hear that first. So it really depends on what you're focusing on, right? I mean, I guess it also depends on the song too. It depends on what instruments are used in that song. I would assume.
I would say it's important not to be too hung up on graphs too. Don't get all hung up on frequency analysis, because you can have something that looks exactly the same on a frequency analysis, and you don't know how forward what that frequency or that range of frequencies is as opposed to something else. So don't get hung up on graphs and go, oh, look at this graph. I see people that live on graphs, so don't get hung up on that, because graphs don't tell the whole story. They don't tell you where the instruments are positioned in the soundstage, any of that stuff.
So I will ask this too,
Yeah,
guys.
let your ears be the guide.
And that goes to transparency, right? I mean, the transparency of that record as well. The sound, how faithful it is to the original recording. So, Patrick, you must obviously, when you're listening to your originals, you're comparing it to these reissues, right? So, are you really using that when comparing as well, like the overall transparency?
I mean,
versus the original.
I mean, it's hard. I sit there. I mean, I would be the first person to say, yeah, I would love for, all right. So let me do this. So this is a record that I got this weekend. This is a Tin House album. It's like a psych album. If there was a reissue of this and I was listening to this first, I would totally want this one to be better, because it's an original and I spent money on this, as opposed to, I dug this out in the wild, as opposed to, just ordering it on frickin' Discogs or whatever, or getting a reissue from Rhino. No offense, Rhino. I would be rooting for this one, but I'm not naive enough, and I'm not that bought into it to sit there and say, okay, the reissue is better. I'm cool with that. I mean, if the reissue is better, the reissue is better. I don't have any preconceived notion that something's going to be better, or I want it to be better. I've had like a $5,000 cart, and that hurt me to admit that it sounded like shit. It's like nobody wants to hear that, anything they've spent money on, or a lot of money on, especially, doesn't sound as good as something they could buy for $5 or $10. To Brett's point about the Zoo Audio DL103, it's kind of coincidence that I literally just switched to a DL103 done by Andy Kim about a month ago. So I too dropped off the high end cart, quote unquote, and I have a DL103 with a boron cantilever now and a microline stylus. So yeah, I mean, it's like don't sit there and let money signs or hardware. People sit there and say, oh, this was recorded with this massive hardware setup, blah blah blah. Don't let that cloud your judgment either. Just listen to the music and let that be your guide.
Yeah, and the thing, to the point with the DL103, is I look for how realistic instruments sound. Now, some music is totally artificial, manufactured instrument sounds, right? But when I use, like, normally when I am tuning my system, I always use classical music, because I know what those instruments are supposed to sound like. Because I've spent a lot of time in live music venues, specifically classical music venues, and I just found the DL103. It just makes everything just sounds that much more realistic.
That's
So I know once.
the DL103. Just one second, is a Denon, right? So everyone knows. Is that what we're talking about? The DL103 is a Denon cartridge.
It is the most musical cart I've ever heard. So,
and what do those run for? About $400? The Denon?
You can, but if you get a modified one, they're about $600.
Okay.
So this one has the front taken off. It's halfway nude. So
right, and it's basically a Denon, right? And I think they first started making them in the late '60s. Patrick?
Yeah,
Something like that?
they were made for Japanese radio stations, and this was the staple cart of radio stations for a long time, and
I've
it
been
hasn't
really
changed design in
impressed.
years. So I love this
I mean, I
thing
was really impressed.
with the boron
Yeah.
cantilever and the microline stylus. It's frickin', like I said, it's the most musical cart I've ever heard.
Yeah, it goes really well with my phono stage. Actually, both phono stages sound great, whether it's my F-159 or my Rita. But carts matter big time. I mean,
Yep.
What's funny is when I listen to the ML now, it feels so much brighter.
What's
I don't
cool
know if you noticed that.
I have a Ted Nugent album, the white label promo of the first album, and I've every hardware change I've ever made, I've recorded that album, so I can track what everything sounds like, what every iteration I have had. So that cart cost $550, Kirkwood. So Andy Kim, I can't remember his. He lives he now lives a few miles from me. I've been to his house, but he's a well-known retipper, and he makes these. You just search for Andy Kim, you can come up with that. Great
So it was
guy.
about $600.
$550.
Patrick,
$550.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now another thing with Zoo Audio is they pick out the ones that have the least amount of channel, the difference. So it's like I think the standard is 7% difference. It's up to 7%. That's like a standard DL103, but I think they go down like 5% difference between the channels, and then you can pick all the way down to like 0.2% or something, or 1%.
But they put a body on theirs, right? They put a different body on theirs. They actually
They
put
do.
more stuff on it. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
and it's a
the one
heavy
I have,
sucker.
they took less. They take less of it. So it's two different ways of thinking.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just know that this thing is heavy. Like I had to put a huge counterweight
These
on
were
it
Japanese
balance.
radios. Japanese radio stations vinyl kicks were not U.S. radio. Although I think U.S. radio stations used it too. Yeah, I'd use an extra counterweight on my Technics to mount the DL103 is pretty heavy to begin with, I think.
Well, let's ask Josh this. Getting back to that low frequency, Josh, when comparing records. So low frequency, of course, right? That you might have that muddy sort of sound to it, that overall muddy sound to it. Like, how do you compare the low frequencies? What are you doing there? And then I'll ask Patrick the same thing.
I mean, honestly, I'm not quite as, I don't know if this is the correct term, analytic maybe as Patrick or Revelry. I'm not. And I know Patrick was a musician as well, which I just learned today. Very cool. But I previously was a touring musician in my younger days. And so, man, when I'm listening to things, what really gets me off is I want to feel like I'm hearing them live. I don't really give a shit. I don't really give a shit about how if I can hear a fuck, you know what I mean? And I don't want to be like, oh wow, what a recording. I want to be like, holy shit, this moves me.
You want to be in it. You want to be in it.
I want to be in it. Like the other day, for instance, I got in a collection, and this is a record that's people look at and they probably think it's cheesy, and from my age group at least,
What is it? What's the cheese?
All right, what is it? Tell us.
The Gary Wright Dreamweaver album. And so I look at
Patrick, sing the song for us, please.
It probably sounds fantastic.
Dreamweaver.
Right, but
Gary Wright from Spooky Tooth, man.
Wasn't that from Wayne's World? That song was played when he saw the blonde girl in the diner.
He did
Garcia, and Gar's hair was all that was Dreamweaver.
Yeah, so I got a copy in, and I've always seen it's always been played to death, but this copy was mint, right? And I look in the dead wax, it's got the TML, obviously mastering lab, which is that's your that shit's
you see that in the dead wax, it's good.
It is, and I cleaned it up on the KL. I put it on. I'm using like a clear audio table with an Audiophile black cart, so that's what I'm using. And and I put it on, and I'm just kind of like, holy shit. And even my girlfriend came in, and she was just like, damn. She was like, that sounds good. She was like, who's that? And I'm like, Gary Wright. And I was like, and then of course we heard The Love Is Alive, which I think's been in some soundtracks here recently as well, which is another standout track. And then I was doing some research and found out he was in Spooky Tooth, and I'm kind of lukewarm on Spooky Tooth, but anyways, that recording, you feel like Gary Wright is in your living room and he is dream weaving you all the way.
I know we hear that in your living room a lot, but I mean that goes to sort of that sound stage, right? That
point
width,
with
the width and the depth, right?
The width. That's what I said about the sound stage.
Yeah.
I want to feel the depth in the space, and that's where you get that feeling. I mean, I feel that same way with the I don't know, the U2 live, what is it, the Red Rocks one, where they live under a blood red sky. That just sounds huge, and I'm like, you're there, you're at the show. I mean, and that's what I love too. I mean, that's why I always say about soundstage is I want to feel like I'm in the room or they're here with me, or that's when you feel the best. At least I do.
I hear that a
But
lot.
setup has a huge amount to do with it.
I hear that a lot when people are shooting out records. Oh, it feels like he's in the room with me or whatnot. But I think again, going back to setup, I think setup is huge. And I think, Patrick, you said mood, probably the morning's better too in terms of variables here to listen to do a shootout than in the evening. I would assume no whiskey during.
Another album.
In the morning,
showing albums
hopefully
yet,
not drink. We'll get
this
to that.
album right here. He's in the room.
Ryan Adams.
I don't know if you know this album.
I do.
Good one.
Ryan Adams, Ashes and Fire. Glenn Johns. I mean, Benmont Tench plays on this. Just amazing sound, and the guy's in the room.
It is. That's
maybe
great.
You're not into that kind of music, but I mean, mastering matters and recording matters, and
a lot of what I'm hearing in these shootouts is everyone's perspective is different. I mean, this is really what we're getting at, which I expected it to be. That's why I wanted to do this today. So
that's
really
the first thing I said was there's no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong.
But it's right for you.
But I wanted to do this today just to see sort of the processes of everyone and how they're going about listening to each record. So that's really what my objective was today more than anything.
I have a really good, I don't know if it's an advantage, but I mean, I have the luxury of having hundreds of people available to tell me what they like best and how they feel about it. So that's one thing that I
issue going on.
So I have the luxury, like I said, I have other people's ears to like help me, so, like if I'm making a hardware change, I have other people, I'll sit there and say, which do y'all prefer, A, B, or C?
Yeah.
And and it's totally blind and people don't know anything. And in YouTube, you can do the same thing. Like, hey, here's track A, B, and C. Which one do you like? So don't tell them what it is. Make them wait. Sometimes I make them wait too long and they get mad, but it's okay. But when you tell them, they're like going, oh shit, I didn't know. So the Bob Marley that we did where the Miles Showell half-speed master beat out everything that, nobody knew that. Nobody expected it. I didn't expect it.
It's so funny, Patrick, because when I listened to that one, I went out and I got that half-speed master and I played on my setup. I do not like it.
It's going to be different for everybody. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how when we did that setup, I liked it on whatever you recorded it on.
So the Marleys that Miles Showell half-speed cut, Patrick, were a digital file mastered by Ted Jensen, and Miles didn't do anything. It was a flat cut to the lacquer. He didn't do any adjusting on that one. So he even said it's more.
I think it was mastered by Ted Jensen, and
the original
he just cut it, right?
That's what he did. Yes.
So how old were these files from Ted Jensen? So that's interesting. So
yeah.
I'd be curious to see when he cut those.
Yeah,
because he cut it Sterling early on. He cut it Sterling early on. So, yeah, I don't know, but that one won.
Yeah, my favorite Exodus is the Japan cut, though. My Japanese cut, I think, beats the UHQR. That's my view. But
Michael Lynch, Doug Sachs mastered the Ryan Adams album. Cool.
Dig it.
Doug Sachs, TML, and also if you gotta get the UK cut because the US cut has a flaw. It has a flaw on side 2, first track. It jumps. It doesn't skip. It's just when they cut it or when they made the plates. Because I've had several copies of it, they all have the same exact flaw. So the only way to get around that is to get the UK cut, which seems to not have that problem. So
Gotcha.
Right.
Another Ryan Adams hot tip for all you Ryan Adams fans. If you're going to get the Lost Highway stuff, get the stuff later that was pressed at Palace, not the stuff that was pressed at United, because it's noisy. Yeah, it's better, right? Yeah. Ryan Adams.
Is Summer of '69 on that album?
I think you mean Brian Adams.
Isn't that a thing? Don't say that to Brian
That's the
Adams.
Different one. The different Ryan Adams.
I heard if you do that at his shows, he gets really mad. He gets really pissed. So if he goes Summer of '69.
Last time I saw him.
No, but this is a killer album. Glenn Johns.
Yeah. I was gonna say last time I saw him, he got so pissed people were taking flash photography of him.
We're doing a little caching here, Steve. Are you having the same issues?
We're fine on your end. It's probably you.
Yeah. I was just saying, he was so pissed people were taking photos of him. He made them turn up the fog machines, and for the last 45 minutes of the concert, you couldn't see anybody on stage.
As a former light guy, I applaud that. I mean, I want more smoke. Give me more smoke. Come on, guys. Yeah, totally.
It was smoky, and he was like, "No alcohol during my performance," and I was just like, "Geez, man, what a buzzkill." Anyways,
okay, I'm going to rant. We're already at the top. We're already at the top of the hour. I need a rant. What did I used to call your rants? You didn't want me to call them the prattles, Patrick. Hang on.
Steve, do you want to? This is your show. I don't know if it looks like he's cashing right now, but
why don't you come back?
Do you
log out and log back in?
Do you want to share some of the pressings we brought today, or what's?
Yeah, we're going to. You must be. There must be a delay for you because we're all three of us are fine. So you might want to just log back in. It's really weird because you're.
All right, let me log out and log back in.
So Patrick, this is the. Remember this, the prattle. Look at that.
Yes.
He didn't want me to put that, but yeah. What do you got?
So this is my rant.
Hang on. Let's go. Go for it. What do you got?
This is my rant. This is the Interscope Sunday's Blind. They put it on 2 albums, on translucent gold nugget vinyl. Who gives a shit? At 45 RPM. Lots of people are looking forward to it. I have an original UK of this. I've had it for years.
It?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know where it was cut either. Because I can't read it because it's in the splatter is like. So I bought 2 copies of this. So I love this record, and it's phenomenal album. So this is what it looks like. So who gives? I really. This sounds so noisy, and I was so disappointed. Both copies of this are noisy. So the plate, obviously, the plate that I got was cut fucking noisy, and it had no quality control. They didn't recut it, but yeah, both copies that I have of this are noisy. They like really really noisy. I can handle a little bit. Typical modern vinyl to me usually has a little bit of noise in it, but this is bad, really, really bad. And I'm not pleased with it. This is one of those records where you're so excited and you're glad people could finally get a copy of it, because an original of this is like $300. Original UK of this is hard, expensive, and they put the single Wild Horses, which is only available on the 12-inch single, on this. So I thought that was really nice. It did it at 45 RPM.
Patrick, Andy G says he agrees. Blame the gold-colored splatter vinyl. Would that possibly be it, or is it?
Probably not. I mean, I don't usually find colored vinyl to be noisy, but this is just so bad, so fucking bad. And like I said, and the first one they did the first album, Reading, Writing, Arithmetic, and that sounded great. It was phenomenal sounding. So I was really had high hopes for this, but somebody cut corners or something, and it's just not good. That's my rant.
What year was that album? Was that 92?
I hate that when modern.
No, probably a little bit later than that.
Sounds so noisy.
Yeah, 92. Yeah, you're right. 92. You're absolutely correct.
I remember
that. On the money. So great record.
I'm on the money some days. Some nights, that's for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, that was upsetting to me. That's my rant.
I like it.
We all agree.
Good
Josh,
rant.
Do you have a rant?
I mean, I guess mainly my rant kind of goes back to my YouTube video that I did today, and I think
I was waiting. This is the segue I was waiting for. So One Step. We talked about this on the show before. You did a video on the One Step today. Go.
Yeah, basically, I'm just saying, if one thing people don't realize, I don't know why this is like such a hard thing for people to realize, especially on the groups. Like everyone gets into these like shouting matches online. If the Audiophile people redid it, any of them, I don't care who, it was a great sounding album to begin with. They're not taking turds and polishing them. So if you if you think you can save money, go back and get an original. I mean, that's one of the things about some of these one steps and things, they're making, like, especially like the UHQRs, they're making 10 or 20,000 of those. Well, they're not really collectible at that point, right? So if you're buying them to collect and they already sound good to begin with, maybe go back and try an original, unless it was pressed on shitty vinyl to begin with. Obviously, that's one reason to buy a UHQR or a craft one step. They're on these, these better quality vinyl compounds. But I mean, if you're really looking for stuff that's, you really want something, you want to have it's collectible, and because I just love originals anyways. So, but like on the Green Day, you're going to go back and buy an original of that, and it's going to cost you $300 or $400. So maybe buying the one step from Because Sound Matters is better with that, and it's cut at 45, and it's all analog. So it's kind of a tit for tat thing, but I just wish people would stop with this whole nonsense that these original records can't be audiophile. Shit, if they weren't audiophile, the audiophile record labels wouldn't be redoing them. You think that they're taking, why do you think they haven't done Disraeli Gears? I mean, I know MoFi did like a CD, gold CD of it,
they did, yeah,
mono and a stereo, but that's not a great sounding recording.
I have a pretty good cut of that, though.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Miles Scholl cut a great mono one. Miles Scholl cut a great mono one for Abbey Road. He did it monster Disraeli Gears in mono. Absolutely slayed it.
But would you call it? I mean, it's just
it's not audiophile, but it can sound good.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but I mean, like, what is audiophile? I mean,
here's an example though. Impex is coming out.
Audiophile.
Impex is coming with that Donovan the Hurdy-Gurdy Man, right, in 1968.
That's a great sounding record.
That's a great sounding record. The original, that's a hard one to beat. The Hurdy-Gurdy Man, the original. If you find a clean original Hurdy-Gurdy Man 68, that's audiophile quality right there. It's a fantastic sounding album.
I mean, I love the OG. I shoot for the OG if I can, but like Josh says, I mean, you spend $300 or $400 for a Dookie original, and it's not perfect. It's kind of noisy, maybe. I mean, yeah, they're good for shooting out. Which one do you prefer? Like my Soundgarden Super Unknown. I love my OG translucent with all the sibilants and everything, but it just sounds good to me. But
Grail number 2, Super Unknown, William Mackey, 320 German cut. That's the next one on the list. That's the next one on the list.
Well, I wanted to show you, but this is
you're going to show me Bad Motorfinger?
Well, yeah, which I have.
That's a 320.
Yeah, and this is a killer cut. Go get one if you can still get them. But this is another one that should be. This is a 320 cut, and it slays. It's awesome. I mean, so you don't have that 320 cut?
Oh, I've done the 320 cut, but it's been a few years. I've had it, and the person that loaned it to me got rid of it, and I go, oh man, I want to redo it again. So yeah, but that one I'm still. But now it's like skyrocketed in cost. I mean, it's astronomical.
I see one at
now,
$4,000 out there.
Yeah, it's become like the RL Zep 2.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah,
but I have a Brazilian cut that the EQ's off on, but if you fix the EQ, sounds amazing. But that's another discussion.
I was talking to Bob Donnelly from Impex today as well this afternoon on my lunch, and he was saying that they used a really clean original Hurdy-Gurdy Man Donovan when they remastered the Impex one that's coming out sometime in April. So
the AB it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, what Chris Spellman did to this one with this machine, right? With the machines that these mastering engineers are using today, it's a little bit different game as well. So they have the technology.
The OGs are amazing, but like with Kevin Gray with the Doors, it is so everything sounds so real on the Rhino Hi-Fi. It just sounds so clear. It's like that's his equipment, I mean, and I like that. I want to see I have my originals. I love those too. But the clarity and just the detail, I mean, sometimes you need the modern cut too,
Definitely. DCCs are great.
Sometimes you don't.
And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't because it's not as good.
You want to? Here you go, right there. Sometimes you need, Sometimes you don't.
Okay, well, hang on.
That's
Get this
right.
one and you're done.
If someone's just listening, you held up the
ATGP?
Led Zeppelin.
Yep. There you go. Monarch. There you go.
Okay.
That's
The
all you need.
ATGP cut, right?
That's all. Yep. That's all you need right there.
Is that one of those cuts that goes to your grave, Patrick? You know, I had that episode, like cuts that go to your grave. Would that be one that just you'd want never sell?
Well, I mean, I just got this one. I mean, I have one, but I mean, I'm not leaving this. I mean, these are inexpensive. You can get these for like $30-$40,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it makes the classic cry. It makes the turquoise cry. It makes the UK cry. So yeah, if you want to be jealous about something, be jealous that you spent $1,000 on a turquoise UK and didn't get this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like what Scott Wheeler has to say. This is true, though. I mean, again, years ago, no one had the hi-fi systems or record players like I have behind me back in the 1970s. Many originals were EQ'd to track on lesser rigs, so they were compressed and rolled in the bass.
I agree, Scott. That's part of the reason why.
That's why the tone poets are so popular.
Yeah, that's why some of the new pressings, they release some of that low end back. And some of the clarity is there, you know. People don't like there's, you know, the MoFi one steps is, you know, a bad word around here in a way, but the clarity, like my Van Halen 2 on my one step, my Van Halen one step for MoFi, it slays. I love it. I love the original, but I also love the modern one. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You have to listen to them.
If I could reach, I'd go grab my Van Halen 1 palm label and go, this is another one. That's all you need is that one. And if you got a one step, if you got anything, that's fine. If you got the Rhino, that's fine. But for me, that's the one that sounds like it should sound. That's
and I have that one.
Talking about being in the room. That's where you're in the. That's in your in the room.
But I think also something to do with like when you're growing up and you hear that music your whole childhood, you used to hearing it a certain way. And, you know, sometimes the modern pressing is like, I didn't want to hear all the, you know, all that stuff in the background. I just want to hear it the way it is, you know?
Now, that being said, I mean, you said talking about Yes Fragile. I mean, I have the UK Plum. I have the I don't know, the MoFi. I have every iteration there is to have of it. Yeah. That Atlantic 75 had everything. All those pressings had going for it and more. That thing. I mean, I've listened to Yes Fragile a million times, and I was blown away by how well that freaking AP75.
I may have to get that one. I don't have it on my list yet, but it will.
It literally just sang. I mean, I was just like, holy shit, you know, and you know, most of the AP75s have been as good or better than anything, except for like Bad Company's first album. The UK's better than it. And maybe the Genesis self-titled that I just got.
I didn't like the Stone Temple Pilots Purple wasn't as good as the original to me.
I haven't listened to that in a long time, so I didn't. So I have to like.
One thing Kevin Gray did with the Doors Rhino box, though, Brent, too, is they used originals that Bruce Botnick had brought with him to the studio, so they used that as a reference. And the self-titled Doors was real. Kevin really put a lot of time into that one to make it sound as authentic.
Why didn't he do that with Marquee Moon? Why didn't he get a copy of Marquee Moon and do that in the studio?
Yeah. No. Well, he did have my original Black Sabbath Vertigo to reference when he cut the Black Sabbath Hi-Fi.
Well, that built a whole different tape though, because there's like different tracks on that.
But he wanted it just to see what that one sounded like, so that's why I sent it to him.
Yeah, he's pretty much anything he cuts is pretty darn good. I've never been disappointed with any of his recent
that's one
cuts.
thing. When Matt Luthens was on the show, that was one thing Matt Luthen says. I mean, Kevin's equipment, you don't have to adjust it. It's just basically ready to go.
That's right.
Whereas, the Mastering Lab equipment that he uses in Kansas, it has to be adjusted and it takes a couple of days and going back and forth and scratching your head, have to rewire stuff. I mean, with Kevin's stuff, it's just go. It's go time. Big difference.
Yep.
Yeah. And Josh is nodding his head, so he knows what I'm talking about.
Like the manual that Doug Sax's brother like that came with the mastering lab, and like how they had to put it all together and all the little, like, it's like so customized. It's like you have to have like a PhD to like figure out how to work the damn thing.
So I think, I mean, I've been on a couple of panels with Kevin Gray, and just from my perspective, though, I sit there and you ask him questions and he talks to you. He's a super nice guy, but as somebody who's really passionate about these pressings and stuff, I don't get the feeling from him that he's that attached. He does it so often, he's not blown away by that. Where somebody like me, I'm like going, I mean, you actually touched like the master tape to LA Woman? And he's like, yeah, I just put it on there. It's like, I don't think, me, I'm so connected to it. I just like going, man, dude, you want that. You want him to be like going, oh my God. I thought he's like, yeah, it was good. He doesn't like slow play it, but it's like, just another day at the office for me, so I think sometimes I have this expectation that he's going to be like, man, this was fucking awesome. It was great. How was it like to doing Montrose's first album? Like, I did that one. I'm like, oh, no, you don't even remember.
You don't remember that one?
Holy shit. Yeah. So it's interesting,
I've
like
only seen him get excited once like that, Patrick. And that was when he said he cut Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
And he said when he heard the heartbeats come up at the beginning, he said,
I'm sure if he did the Beatles, he would probably be pretty stoked about that.
And he should.
Sure. Yeah.
He should. It's so sad that they were cut the way they were.
Okay, one more record each. We'll wrap her up.
All right.
I'll let Josh. Did you bring one, or you brought your top 5? You're good.
Yeah. No, I'm just I'm rolling with whatever these.
Did we actually solve anything tonight though? I'm just wanting to get back to our objective today.
Well, did we have a problem, or are we just giving tips on what
I think it's tips,
done?
and I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I think I really appreciate all the tips. I think there's a lot of good tips, but I like the consistency, and I think everyone, all 4 of us, and everyone, all the viewers, we're pretty consistent the way we're listening to our records. That's for sure.
Okay, if I have one to pick, can I go? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. BB Photo, Steve Westman need to have master engineer. It's Eric as a Belanger of the bakery mastering on the live stream. I can ask him, sure. And George Borden. Well, of course, George Borden. I always ask George, and George is busy. Thank you, Christopher. Okay, what do you got?
Okay, so I have this is semi-controversial. Some people don't like this guy now.
Hold on. It's one of my favorite artists, Van Morrison. Astro Weeks, live at the Hollywood Bowl.
This is an absolutely amazing sounding pressing.
It's amazing.
I don't know. Have you guys, anybody else heard this?
I have it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
Oh, it's top notch. Now, and I think Bernie Grunman cut it. I think
you're right. I mean, it's not his voice isn't quite the same, and his
voice is not, but it's all the music around him. And if you want to feel like you're at the Hollywood Bowl, this is amazing. So I highly suggest it. They're not super pricey, but they're like $80, something like that. I highly suggest this one.
And that's a 2009 cut, right? Pressing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I was floored when I put this on though. And it's probably not from analog tape. It's probably digital, but everything just sounds wonderful. But yeah, his voice isn't like the original. Like my original Astro Weeks sounds amazing. My OG. I'd like to get a mint copy of that someday. So if you have one that runs by on your side, Josh, I'd maybe pull the trigger on that one.
It's just cut so low, especially the first song is just cut so low. It's hard to find something that isn't overpowered. It's like Forever Changes, like hard to find.
Are you saying on the original?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of Astro Weeks, yes.
Yeah.
Kevin Gray cut's great on that though too. Yeah.
Yeah, I have that one too. But
I have that one. That's a Hoffman Gray, isn't it? That's a Hoffman Gray. The Astro
Weeks. It
Weeks
just seems a little flat compared to the original to me.
Yeah. I think you're right, Patrick. I think it's Hoffman Gray. Yeah.
Yeah, they did Moondance too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have that one as well.
I like the direct disc, super disc.
I have the direct disc. I just picked up the direct disc about a month ago.
I think Jack Hunt did that one. He also did Yellow Brick Road, which was very good as well.
And it has the tambourine.
And Derek and the Dumb. Yeah, that's the original. Yeah.
Oh man, that sounds amazing.
On Into the Mystic.
I almost brought that one today.
Great song.
Direct to disc. Yeah. Cool.
Man.
Patrick, do you have another
Patrick?
one?
So I'm going to show of all the ones. I'm going to show this one because it's one of my best friend's uncle. This was a band. They're called They had 2 albums on the Fillmore label, which is Bill Graham's imprint. This came out in I think 1969. The guy in the middle, Wayne Ceballos, good friend of mine. He's actually from my hometown, Brownsville, Texas. Moved to San Francisco. Played with Hendrix. Played with everybody in that time frame. Actually, this band was up for Woodstock. They're going to get a Latino band. It was either him or Carlos Santana. They were good friends, really good friends. They chose Santana and not him, and careers went that way. This is their second album, Resurrection. The title track on this is freaking amazing. But this is a good bluesy rock album. Probably cost you $20 or so, but they're out there. The first they had 2 records. One's called Blues Vibes, and like I said, this one's called Resurrection. If you want something that's kind of off the beaten path that probably nobody's ever heard in your area, if you find it, get it. Like I said, the title track is absolutely stunning. Beautiful song, Resurrection.
Resurrection.
Yeah. Okay. Putting that in there.
I'm frozen for some reason. You can probably hear me, so I don't know what's going on with me.
We can hear you.
It don't look like your nose too.
Looks like I'm picking my nose, but I'm not. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. There you go.
Now you're like frozen.
There you go. Well, we'll leave it at that, guys. I don't know what's going on, but I appreciate everyone today. Thank you so much. Check out Friday 5:30 a.m. I'll have the 2 Rhino Hi-Fi rock albums up. That'll be fun. Next Wednesday, Grover Beery from Because Sound Matters, along with Ben Mink, the producer of Ingenue from Katie Lang, is going to be on the show, along with Chris Bellman. So that'll be a lot of fun. So bring your questions for that one. That'll be great. And highfidelityrecords.com. Buy some records today on Josh's website. Thanks for coming out. Pibethol, thank you. Brent, thank you so much, man.
Thanks for the invite.
Of course, now I'm not freezing up, but I was before. It looks like I was picking my nose. But
and
guys,
thank
thank
you guys as well.
Yeah, everyone, thanks for watching. It was a great show. Really appreciate everything. I love the consistency and how we listen to records. It was really nice to hear that tonight. So thank you.
Dig it, man.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Go long, farewell.
Thanks, Steve. Great show, man.
Bye-bye.